Hey guys, Nike here. Today I want to make a video about a problem that's been growing in the last few years and has rapidly accelerated in recent months. I'm talking specifically the explosion of third-party software in Guild Wars 2 that is quickly going from quality of life improvements to hard exploits with no sign of slowing down. So what happened? I suppose I should give a bit of a history lesson for people that don't recall. Way back in the day, there was a DPS meter called DDGM. It was the first sort of DLL-based meter that read game memory to make what was really a kind of a crude DPS meter. Initially, it didn't have really any features, and people kept it very under wraps and didn't talk about it publicly because there was a genuine fear of getting banned for using it. Now, fast forward to raids coming into the game with HOT. Now, most people are unaware, but there is a built-in DPS meter in the game client today, but it is currently disabled on the live client. It does exist on some test servers, but not in the live game. Mike O'Brien, continuing a tradition of making incredibly bad long-term choices for Guild Wars 2, decided not to release the inbuilt in-game DPS meter. But the need and the desire for a DPS meter once raids became the endgame content was so huge that people started to make extremely scuffed ones that didn't use memory reading, and then began to make even better ones that did use memory reading, like Arc DPS, GW2 Helper, and BGDM. BGDM was essentially a reskin or addition to the base DDGM code with a few more features. They were so useful and so necessary to the game that players began using them openly on stream, and ANET didn't seem to have the stomach to ban them. And here is where ANET was forced to make what was a rather fateful choice. Rather than release their own DPS meter, they tacitly allowed any of the memory reading DPS meters that didn't cross certain exploit lines, with Arc DPS being the one that was most openly approved by ANET. For years thereafter, players have gotten more accustomed to using third-party software, and developers have gotten more comfortable making add-ons that solved basic QoL issues that, in theory, would have been better addressed by ANET doing it themselves. As time went on, both ANET and the players became used to this arrangement. However, recently we have hit an inflection point, in my opinion, with Blish HUD. Blish added several models that cross lines that ANET would have never approved of in 2015. When ANET said or did nothing about these very questionable models, more or less the floodgates were open. People began using somewhat openly other clearly illegal third-party software like Gear Inspect, botting / automation programs, and even things like fly hacking or teleport hacking in PvP. Unfortunately, ANET's response has been mostly silent. While a few people have been banned for the PvP stuff, and there is one large example of a streamer being banned for using automated crafting programs on stream, for the most part, everything else has flown under the radar, with the likely reason that it's because ANET can't really tell you're doing it without invasive spyware of the sort they've failed to implement in the past, and would only generate tons of false positives if they tried again. From ANET's perspective, the PR disaster of trying to enforce the rules simply isn't worth it. But now we have another PR disaster on our hands. People are releasing fully automated bots that play the game for you in Cirrus Legendary Challenge mode. Perfect mechanical execution and perfect DPS rotation. This is as egregiously wrong as teleport hacking in PvP, and unfortunately, ANET has basically no way of stopping it. Now, why is that? Any attempt to stop it would mean generating a ton of false positives, because they have tacitly allowed certain other applications to do memory reading, and ANET doesn't have the ability to easily tell the difference between innocent Arc DPS users and illegal Cirrus LCM .dll users. Trying to ban the Cirrus botters or the PvP fly hackers would result in a bunch of innocent Arc DPS users being banned as well. But if ANET doesn't do something, the problem is going to get very, very bad. This is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not hard to see a point in the not very near future at all where botting is completely out of control in Guild Wars 2 and has an incredibly corrosive effect on the community. So, circling back, based on a harebrained Mike O'Brien 2014 decision, they've painted themselves into quite a corner. Now, what can they do about it? Well, the best answer isn't going to be a cheap one, but however, it is an investment, and it's quite possible that in the long run, the investment will be profitable for ANET. Simply put, what ANET needs to do is invest in a more robust API. The new API 2.0 should allow essentially for second-party DPS meters. Essentially, third-party developers using the first-party API data to create a DPS meter. They can also add a bunch of other stuff that other games have, like more detailed armories and leaderboards and stat tracking. Essentially, better versions of Guild Wars 2 efficiency, better versions of Wingman, and a DPS meter that's integrated into everything. All of this can be fan-created, which means they just need to make it available in a more malleable form. Again, Guild Wars 2 efficiency does a great job with the API that's available now, but it could be a heck of a lot better if it had more robust features that were designed for sites like Guild Wars 2 efficiency in mind from the ground up. The other benefit of a robust API being the source of data for software rather than memory reading is that ANET controls the faucet of data. If someone uses the API to develop an exploitative piece of software, ANET can simply change the code on their end to disable it. That's the key. ANET would essentially get final say on all the software because they provide all the data for it. Once they've accomplished that, and they have this robust API added to the game, they can update their terms of service to ban all memory reading third-party software, as well as make a policy statement to that effect. And at that point, any and all DLL injections being banned, there won't be any false positives because every positive will be a legitimate ban. So why wouldn't ANET do this? Simply put, it's going to cost a lot of money. It would require ANET to hire more devs, probably a handful of devs, who would be working full-time exclusively on the API with no other job role. That is not cheap. That is a several $100,000 a year investment from ANET. However, I do think it's worth it. I think that with each piece of hacking and botting software that gets released for the game each week, it becomes more worth it for ANET to do this. And a better API would grow the third-party and fan site scene in a positive way rather than a negative one, which in the end would provide a return on investment for ANET. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any comments you have below. I'd like to hear what you have to say, and I will definitely see you next time.